Hey everybody, Ruxabox90 here with a heck ton of spoilers for Theros. So I'm going to be culminating and collecting pretty much all the spoilers from the last couple days that I've missed and throwing them up for your viewing pleasure. So we're going to run into a bunch of cards including New Planeswalker and Erebos, the final god, as well as some other really cool cards. So let's hop right into it, hopefully go pretty quickly. So first up we have a color hate cycle, which is pretty much one monocolor of each one that hates on another color. So for example, Gainsay is one in a blue, counter a blue spell. Instant speed, pretty solid counter spell cost. Obviously it's just for a blue spell, but for such a cheap cost it has sideboard potential in constructed play. Dark Betrayal destroys a black creature for one. Again, feels that sideboard feel. So could potentially see play that way. It's a little too specific to be anything outside of sideboard. Glare of Heresy is the same way. Exile target white permanent. This is probably the strongest of the three we've seen so far because it's any white permanent for 2 mana, and exiling is a really powerful effect. If you remember Celestial Purge, even though it did a black and a red, black or red permanent, it was pretty much the same concept, and that saw a lot of sideboard play. So here's another option that could see sideboard play. And gosh, that art is so cool with the Leonin. Pardon my nose, I have a bit of an allergy run, so there's a little bit going on. Peak Eruption. So this is finally the card that we were waiting for to see what's going to deal with the mountains from Chain to Rocks. So Peak Eruption, 3 sorcery, destroy a mountain, deals 3 damage to that land's controller. So reasonable uncommon. Very solid cost for land destruction, even though it's just for a mountain. But again, sideboard potential, and if Chain to Rocks actually becomes a big thing, this card would be a nice way to counter it. And in limited, again, it's also pretty solid sideboard card. And then we have the new Planeswalker, Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. So I hope we get more background for Ashiok because I have no idea where this Planeswalker is coming from. I really don't remember it, her, he. I have no idea. I'm just going to call it it. The It Weaver. The It Weaver, no idea where it comes from in terms of lore. In terms of playability, it's 3 for 3 loyalty, so those usually tend to fit into the realm of playability. It's 1 blue and a black, so Dimir Planeswalker, very cool. For 3, +2, exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library, so that's pretty solid, cool. -X, put a creature card with converted mana cost X, exile with it onto the battlefield under your control. That's a nightmare. Alright, and then -10, exile all cards from all opponents' hands and graveyards. So I'll first off throw out, obviously it's a 3-cost Planeswalker, but the biggest problem immediately off the bat is that even in a control deck, control mid-range, the fact that you get nothing from Ashiok immediately. There's no protection for the Weaver, just none. It doesn't protect itself. The fact that you pretty much have to do +2 when it hits play to even have any options is a bit aggravating because then it makes the -X essentially useless since it has to be exiled with Ashiok, so makes the Ashiok's initial hitting play basically you must do the +2, which is fine, but it doesn't do anything. You're paying 3 mana to exile the top 3 cards. And yeah, they may not respond immediately, so maybe in terms of like a mid-range control, long-term game, it might be more powerful, especially in a matchup against another control deck with, Aetherling is in their deck, and you basically try to mill them out to get that Aetherling, and then you get to put into play for quote-unquote free. That's a possibility, but otherwise it's a bit aggravating. The -10, of course, is not pretty much going to happen at all in terms of general constructed play standard-wise. In terms of EDH, that could be. I actually think Ashiok has a much better chance in EDH where there are a lot more splashy stuff going on, so Ashiok could get overlooked and then catch up in the game and be much more powerful. Also, exiling the top cards, exiling 3 at a time, not most players won't be able to get those cards back from exile, so just the raw card advantage could help. It could be a decent addition for certain control and mill variants in EDH Commander. But again, in Legacy it's just not there, in Modern it's probably not there, and even in Standard I think that it's going to be very narrow in terms of playability. While it looks very cool, again, not all that powerful. It's decent. It's decent. Maybe right now because of the general slowness against aggro matchups, he's just not going to be that good. and the general slowness of other, control and tempo and such, he might have some playability, maybe especially in mirror matchups. But otherwise, I don't see super future for him. For it, the Weaver. Then we have Tymaret, the Murder King, 2 for a 2/2 legendary creature zombie warrior. Kind of cool. Doesn't really look like a zombie, but going with the mass dude, so sure. 2, sack another creature, deals 2 damage to a player only, not creature. 2 black, 1 in a black, sacrifice a creature, return it from your graveyard to your hand. So reasonable recursion, especially for red black tends to fit into the more Grixis aggro feel. So that's kind of cool that you can get him back over and over again. Recursion, obviously you need a sack for it, but could be very cool. And being able to sack creatures to throw damage into someone, that could be decent in some, I would say, in terms of a token or recurring. I mean, if you had things like Gravecrawler and Jarl's Messenger and stuff like that, things that recur from Undying and so on, that could be a lot of fun. But it seems a little narrow for general standard play. In terms of EDH, could be a fun commander. You have to kind of build around the sack outlet, but given how cheap he is to play, that could be something to do. So again, very flavorful, very cool card, but again, not quite sure how it fits in terms of viability and constructed. In terms of limited, I think it'll be a pretty solid card to play, especially if you have some token aspect to your drafting. Otherwise, it's a bit rough on the creature count. Then we have Erebos, God of the Dead. The black one has arrived, and I'm actually a fan. 4 for a 5/7 indestructible. We expected that. Legendary enchantment creature. God, mythic, as long as your devotion to Black Assassin 5. Again, that's a standard. It's not a creature. Your opponent can't gain life. Your opponents, actually. So that's fairly interesting, especially with the amount of life gain going on. That definitely makes him a consideration for standard right off the bat. Just being able to land him and lock down all the Archangel of Thune madnesses and Scavenging Ooze and all sorts of life gain going on. He locks it all down. And then 1 in a black, pay 2 life, draw a card. Notice that your opponents can't gain life, so you can gain life. And you being able to gain life and then feed it into a card draw could be rather powerful in standard today, definitely, with the amount of life gain options going on. That's definitely viable. I really like the greed effect, because if it was pay 1 life, then it could be you could probably spam Erebos like crazy, especially in the other formats such as EDH Commander and Modern and such. You can really build into combo to if it was pay 1 life. But making it pay 2 life, it's more like greed. It's harder to manipulate that way. Definitely still viable, as a draw engine, especially in EDH Commander where you have a lot more life in your, you start with 40 life, being able to feed in. It's clearly not as powerful as cards like Necropotence and such, but for an on a stick all the time card that does other stuff too, such as locking down life gain and potentially being a nice solid creature, very cool. So definitely one of the, I don't know if it's the best, but it's in the top 3 standard playable, I would think, just because of the locking down the life gain and the consistent card draw. Also, given that he only costs 4, most of the gods are cheap, but again, 3 and 1 black, not making it locked in terms of having two black, having only 1 black. Sure, it makes the devotion harder to get, but it also makes him more viable in multiple decks. So I think he's very, very good. I'm probably going to pick him up for EDH, but I think at least right now in standard environment, he does have some serious potential. Very, very cool card. Okay, so that's the initial batch. Then we have Arbor Colossus, 2 and 3 green for a 6/6 reach, 6 for Monstrosity 3. When it becomes a monstrous, destroy target creature with flying and opponent's control. It's very big. Without trample, it's a bit 3 green's a bit rough, but of course it's for devotion pretty much. And then the 6 Monstrosity, it's 6 mana to destroy. Creature turns into a 9/9. It's a bit costly for what it does. It's kind of a generic green beater. Obviously in limited it'll be a bomb, but not quite sure how playable it is outside of that, unless mono green decks become a thing, which, excuse me, I'm not sure they're going to be. Then we have Fleecemane Lion, which is this person's translation, because the card we have is, I believe it's Japanese or Korean. And it's pretty much, for those who don't know, there's a card called Watch Wolf, which is a green and a white for a 3/3 wolf, and that was it. But that made you can play 2 for a 3/3. Very powerful. This is 2 for a 3/3 again, except that it has monstrosity for 1. You pay 5 mana, 3 a green and white, and as long as it's monstrous, it's hexproof indestructible. So you play 2 for a 3/3, and then, turn 3, 4, if you're playing ramp, let's say turn 4 for ramp, then 5 mana, you turn it into a 4/4, hexproof indestructible. So, Watchwolf is already crazy powerful. This card kind of makes that. The only problem is right now is that it's competing with Voice of Resurgence, which, unless we're going to get to some removal very quickly, and that removal could potentially help against it to make this card a possibly stronger choice, maybe, possibly. But definitely limited, it's going to be an absolute pick. It's fantastic. Then we have actually, hold on, we'll get to the land cycle in a minute. Let's get to Gorgon. 4 for a 4/5. Whenever another creature dies, scry 1. Black, she gains Death Touch. On the turn 2, she gains Hexproof. So she is rather powerful. Varol's obviously is the other 4 Golgari drop, but Varol's is not 4 for a 4/5, which is already just raw power. Being able to scry every time a creature dies, which black, green, or even just junk colors, is definitely happens a lot. Being able to give her Death Touch nearly guarantees the death of the creatures that involved with her. And in fact, you can give her Hexproof. She seems just a very, very versatile 4-drop for Golgari or junk builds, and definitely limited bomb and standard viable for sure. Then we have Prophet of Krufix, 5 for a 2/3. Untap all creatures and lands you control during each other player's untap step. You may cast creature cards though they have flash. So basically it's taking Seedborn Muse's cost, and mixing with Teferi, and you get a mixed card. It's a little easier to kill, it's only a 2/3, but incredibly powerful, going to definitely be a shoo-in for EDH, no question, and a fabulous mid-range card in Standard. And of course, in Limited, it's going to give you just pure advantage. Then we have Lightning Strike, which is the new Incinerate, just 2 for an instant, deal 3 damage to our creature or player. It's them saying, ha ha ha, you think we're going to make Lightning Bolt because there's lightning? No, we're not. We're not making Lightning Bolt. Lightning Strike. Yeah, they just did that to us. Alright, whatever. Sorry for that. Let's get to the land cycle. This is the lands that we talked about a little while ago that were originally quote-unquote spoiled, except they were more speculative. These are the final dual lands that we're getting, which is very sad because they're at rare, and of course, they look gorgeous. The art is just, guys, the art of this set is amazing. I just keep saying it over and over again, but wow, so good. But the fact these are rare because they enter the battlefield tapped, so like a what do they call it? A Guildgate. Like a Guildgate, when it enters the battlefield, you scry 1, tap to add one of the colors. Really, Wizards? Really? We had the refuges from Zendikar that hit play tapped like this, and when enter the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Here they're scrying 1. Did you really have to be rare to replace it? They're never going to hit play untapped. So, they're not that great, guys. Especially they're rare. They're really an uncommon. They might fit into cubes. They could be fun for EDH. I don't think they're going to be that constructed viable. They're just they're better than, for more professional play. They're better than, some of the other, guild gates and such. But other than that, they're really not that great. And then, so many spoilers. Last one, Psychic Intrusion, 3 blue and a black. For sorcery, target opponent reveals his or her hand. You may choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. You may cast that card from as long as it remains exiled. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color. Basically, it's 5 mana to steal a non-land card from their hand or their graveyard, and you cast it for free for any color. So very, very powerful. If it was instant speed, it would be a shoo-in. I still think it has constructed viability. Obviously, in EDH Commander, it's ridiculous because you can take from their graveyard or their hand. The fact you get to see their hand also is pretty big, so mid-range control might like it. Definitely has some serious potential. Limited is probably maybe even not as good just because it's so expensive and it's not a guarantee. But being able to take from a graveyard, I think it'll still see some play in Limited. So those are our billion spoilers to make up. Overall, still the set looks very exciting. I can't wait to see more spoilers. And let me know your thoughts about all these spoilers below in the comment section. Again, I'm sorry that I have sickness. Hopefully it'll be gone by allergies hopefully be gone by next time. Roxbox 90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.